Hey, so let's talk about sports. We're going to dig into some of the hidden math that powers the games we love. And we're going to challenge a really common idea that more scoring always helps the best team win. It turns out the secret to a nail-biting, thrilling upset might be hiding in plain sight.
So here's the big question. It seems pretty obvious, right? I mean, the more points on the board, the more chances the better team has to show they're better. A single lucky shot shouldn't matter as much. But what if it's not actually that simple? Yeah, this is what pretty much everyone believes. It's just common sense. The more times you do something, the more skill wins out over luck. So a really high-scoring game should be the ultimate test of who's actually the more talented team. But there's a fascinating wrinkle in that logic.
Okay, before we get into the nitty-gritty math, let's just ask, why does any of this even matter? Well, think about what makes sports so great. It's the drama, right? It's that feeling that on any given day, anything can happen. If we already knew who was going to win, why would any of us bother to watch?
And believe it or not, that feeling actually has a technical name, uncertainty of outcome, or UO for short. Having a high UO is basically the lifeblood of professional sports. It's what keeps us on the edge of our seats, and it's what every league out there is desperately trying to create. And this is where our story gets really interesting.
So, a group of researchers started modeling the odds of an upset happening based on how many total goals were scored in a game. And the data they got back was, well, it was weird. It was not at all what you'd expect.
They found this bizarre pattern they called the sawtooth effect. Get this. The chance of an underdog winning is actually higher when a game has 3 total goals than when it has 2. And it's higher with 5 goals than with 4. This jagged up and down pattern just keeps going as the score goes up. It makes no intuitive sense at all. So what on earth is going on here? Is there some kind of magic to odd numbers? How could adding just one more goal to the totals suddenly give the underdog a better chance to win?
Well, the real explanation is, as the researchers themselves said, kind of banal. It's almost disappointingly simple. When the total number of goals is an odd number, a tie is impossible. You just can't have a draw. So all that probability that would have gone into a tie has to go somewhere, and some of it gets redistributed to the underdog, slightly boosting their odds of pulling off a win. And this whole idea about draws really highlights a massive difference between sports. Take soccer, for instance. Your average game has fewer than 3 goals. It's a sport where draws happen all the time, and everybody just accepts it as a normal outcome.
Now compare that to American football. If you think of every score as a goal, you're looking at about 15 of them per game. It's a way higher scoring world where a tie is so rare it's practically a myth.
This quote just says it all. Back in 2008, star quarterback Donovan McNabb played in a rare 13-13 tie. And afterwards, he actually admitted he had no idea that was even allowed. The very concept of a game ending without a winner is just completely foreign to the culture of the sport. Even though with scores that high, a tie is almost statistically impossible anyway. Okay, so that sawtooth thing is a cool little quirk, but it was just the warm-up act. The researchers kept digging, and what they found next was way bigger. A much more powerful insight into how scoring and upsets are connected. And this is the part that completely shatters that common belief we started with. They found that as you add more and more goals to a game, the underdog's chance of winning doesn't just go down in a straight line. Not at all. What actually happens is the chance of an upset first goes up. It rises to a peak, and only then does it start to fall off. This means that for any given matchup, there's a perfect number of goals, a sweet spot, that actually gives the underdog their absolute best shot at winning. It's the number that maximizes the drama. Now, this isn't just some fun fact for a trivia night. It's a legitimate tool. You can imagine it like a curve of excitement that people who design sports could actually use to engineer their games to be as dramatic and compelling as possible. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. That sweet spot, that perfect number of goals, isn't the same for every game. It completely changes depending on how big the skill gap is between the two teams that are playing. So here's the basic idea. If you have two teams that are really evenly matched, you actually want a high-scoring game to maximize the uncertainty. But if you have a huge favorite playing a massive underdog, the sweet spot for an upset is a low-scoring game. That's where one lucky goal, one fluke play, can decide the entire thing. So let's put this into practice. Imagine you're in charge of a sports league, and your goal is to make things more exciting for the fans. This research basically hands you a playbook with 2 clear ways to do that. You basically have 2 levers you can pull.
On one side, you can work on competitive balance. You do things like salary caps or reverse order drafts to make all the teams more equal in skill. That moves your sport to the left on that curve. The other option is to change the rules of the game itself to tweak the scoring, like making soccer goals bigger or basketball hoops lower. That moves your sport up or down the curve, trying to hit that sweet spot, that peak of excitement.
So I think the big takeaway here is that sports aren't just simple tests of who's best. They're actually these really intricate systems, almost like engines designed to produce drama. And by understanding the math humming away inside them, we can see how they can be tinkered with and redesigned for maximum excitement. Which kind of leaves us with one final fun question for you. Thinking about this curve of excitement, if you had the power to change just one rule in any sport you love to try and hit that sweet spot and make it even more thrilling, what rule would you change?